It is deeply offensive to every Australian. The Chinese government should be totally ashamed of this post. It diminishes them in the world's eyes.
A furious Prime Minister calling out the Chinese government after Chinese official Li Jianzhao today tweeted a doctored image of an Australian soldier cutting the throat of an Afghan child. The outline of bodies under the Australian flag. Underneath, the words, "Don't be afraid, we're coming to bring you peace."
It is utterly outrageous and it cannot be justified on any basis whatsoever.
It is gratuitous, inflammatory and deeply offensive, and we all stand as a nation in condemning it.
In recent weeks, Australia appeared to be making attempts to repair the fractured relationship with China. Those attempts now seemingly undone by the posting of a single fake image.
We are also seeking its removal immediately and have also contacted Twitter to take it down immediately.
Despite the government's calls, the forged image remains up without context.
It is an appalling, disgusting and outrageous piece of social media. The Australian government has called in the Chinese ambassador and sought an apology.
In the last hour, the Chinese government responded to the PM's press conference.
Said the Chinese government should feel ashamed, but it is Australian soldiers who committed such cruel crimes. Shouldn't the Australian government feel ashamed?
Well, Peter Harcher is political editor and international editor for the Sydney Morning Herald, and he joins us now. Peter, what was China thinking by posting this image?
I don't know how much thinking there was, really. It doesn't tell us anything about Australia, does it? But it tells us a lot about China. This is a China that is no longer making any pretence at credibility, no longer making any pretence at being a dignified great power. We know that Donald Trump lowered the standards for what's expected of governments around the world, but this stuff almost makes Donald Trump look statesmanlike. And, you know, if it's designed to intimidate Australia, they obviously don't know anything about Australia. If anything, this will simply harden Australia's will and rally people around the government. So it's entirely counterproductive. Perhaps the only way you could really justify it from their point of view is that it's designed to intimidate, confuse and reduce Australia's moral standing to China's. And this is something China's been doing ever since the pandemic struck. And this particular spokesman from China, Zhao Lijiang, is the same guy who said that it was the US Army responsible for COVID-19, not China.
So do you think he's rogue in some way? Like, does he just go off on his own and do this sort of thing? Or do you interpret this as part of a deliberate, concerted strategy?
Well, he is a bit of a special guy, this fella, but it is also a part of a broader strategy, and he's not the only spokesman with this sort of outrageous and inflammatory and just straight-out juvenile. I mean, this is like ISIS-grade stuff, this propaganda. The switch occurred immediately after China was pinged and exposed itself to worldwide criticism over the COVID problem. Because two big things happened. Having bungled the virus and then thrown his own country and the world into a recession, the leader of China, Xi Jinping, felt under tremendous pressure at home. And ever since then, I think he's been trying to deflect that domestic pressure on himself and deflect it outwards to the world with this new wave of just angry and offensive and intimidating conduct to not just Australia. They're doing this to dozens of countries all at once. Australia's just coming in for special treatment, especially the trade sanctions in particular.
Peter, you know how the diplomacy works in these things. It's reported this afternoon the head of Foreign Affairs spoke to the embassy. It was then reported that the ambassador's been asked to report to the government. Why can't Scott Morrison just chuck the ambassador out if he's that upset about this?
Well, he could. That's certainly a step that's open to him. But the two quick points. One is that for a couple of years now, Xi Jinping has been applying a political freeze on contacts between Australia and China, and that's only grown colder. So the only remaining channels really that are open are official levels. So China's embassy here, the Australian embassy in China, that's really the only remaining communication channel. To throw out the ambassador wouldn't exactly close down, there'd still be an embassy, but it would probably choke back what remaining very narrow strand of communication there is. And remember, we've now got $50 billion worth of Australian exports under threat of Chinese boycott. So it's probably a wise idea to keep as many communication lines open as possible.
Peter, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.